like we're talking about Afghanistan. Afghanistan, like, it was the first war on terror war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going on for 20 years. So if we're talking about Afghanistan, you have to sort of look at like what we're, and so this is all within the, the light of the fact that, okay, the point that we're talking about it is that the Biden administration pulled out in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. They abandoned Bagram Air Force Base, and so they were talking about pulling out, but they didn't really give the local security the military, the security guys, like they didn't give them a heads up. They disappeared in the middle of the night. They left vehicles, like armored vehicles and cars, without the keys.
Yeah, and there was
They
a bunch of looting that happened right after they left, with all that gear and equipment that was supposed to be left to the Afghan forces. But yeah,
but they just bounced in the middle of the night,
right.
Which is kind of a rude thing to do after being there for 20 years. It's like you've been married for 20 years, and then you just like your wife wakes up and you're gone.
Yeah. Well, let's start with why that war started. So,
Okay.
you had touched upon this a little bit in the aftermath of 9/11. It was the first war in the war on terror. So, since for the people who, I guess, like you said, weren't even born, when it started, that was where Al Qaeda was operating out of primarily, and yeah, they were going to hunt down Osama bin Laden and exterminate. The idea was to exterminate Al Qaeda and take out the Taliban for harboring Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. So what eventually happened, and I think that there's something to be said, and I think that we can talk about this throughout this conversation. This is like maybe an underlying theme, which is the limited understanding that the US has of foreign wars, right? Especially
Yes.
when it comes to dealing with an idea so vague
Hallelujah.
like terrorism.
Go
Like,
tell it.
yeah, I mean, it's like, okay,
No, I
so
mean,
you have an objective. You wanted to hunt down Osama bin Laden. You wanted to go after his organization. Great. Okay, so he eventually was killed, right? But this
in
is not.
Pakistan.
This is not. Al Qaeda isn't, and was never just a bunch of dudes in a cave, like organizing to plot, terrorist operations.
They never had.
It's an idea. It's an idea, and it's something that is has spread so widely, not just in Afghanistan, not just in neighboring Pakistan, throughout the Middle East, throughout other parts of the Muslim world, and even parts of Europe. We could even talk about it spreading in other areas too, sub-Saharan Africa. The idea is that if there is so much um, oppression committed by governments that are pro-Western and are by autocrats that are installed by Western powers that do the West's bidding, whereby economically speaking, so many people suffer in those many countries. This is what happens. Gangs form in inner cities when people aren't able to find
When they're
jobs, get
underserved.
educated. Right. This is the equivalent of that. Gangs of people who are basically criminals who have nothing else to do
Well,
and no
I
other
mean,
way to survive.
I think you could sort of cast international terrorism as sort of the globalized version of gangs.
Yeah.
In that, like gangs gangs come about through, underserved communities that, turn to criminal activities and find different ways to make money, and then find different loyalties and build networks, you know within their communities. And global terrorism is the globalized version of that. And it's like, if you want a globalized world, you're going to have globalized criminality and globalized militancy. um Within Afghanistan, like, you know uh this this war started, this started a long time ago. The American war there started in 2001, but, you know the war for Afghanistan started a long time before that. And it was part of, like, it depends on how, again, like, I feel like this is a running theme in the things that we talk about, is like, how far back do we want to go? Because there was a time, when a few hundred years ago, when within Afghanistan, like, you had Jews, Zoroastrians, Muslims of Sunni and Shia, you know, proclivities. You had there was even, there was an area of Afghanistan that they called Kafiristan.
What?
There was Kafiristan,
Oh
which
wow.
was where people that were still polytheists, you know, and we could spend a whole podcast talking about what the word kafir really means.
Yeah, yeah.
But
In this context, just people who are polytheists.
yeah, people
Interesting.
that are not monotheists. But there was a section of Afghanistan that was called, like, Kafiristan, and
Yeah.
it was the people that never, came to monotheist religions. And then you had Buddhists and you had Hindus, and um, you know, but there
Well,
were
I
like
think
traditional polytheists that, like, had their own area, and
I
they
think
lived together all right for
yeah.
a long time.